All right, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our Monday, February 9th, regular meeting of the Village Council of Forest Park. We begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Commissioner Maxham? Here. Commissioner Nero? Here. Commissioner Mellon Rogovin?
Here.
Commissioner Vogt? Here. Mayor Hoskins?
Here. Okay, approval of the minutes from the January 26th regular meeting of the council. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion? Okay, there's no discussion.
Commissioner Maxham? Aye. Commissioner Nero? Commissioner Mellon Rogovin?
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt?
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins?
Aye. Okay, public comment.
We do not have any public comment.
All right, commissioners, there was no public comment. There's no formal communications before the council tonight. Under department reports, there are two. Well, there's the annual report from the fire department and the fire department's January report and the community center January 2026 report. Any comments or reactions to any of the reports, commissioners? Commissioner Maxham.
Yes, I want to thank Chief Hankus for putting out the annual report, which was really informative. I mean, the first thing when I look at it is I'm like, oh, fun, you know, so many great pictures. But what's really most important about it is the information in there. And there's a couple things that we've been talking about a lot throughout the year, but I just want to highlight some of them, and they relate to needs of the department that we're working on. But just I, want to remind everyone that there still are and will continue to be critical needs in that department. It was a record-breaking year for calls, something we've been talking about almost every single meeting. It says in the report that there were 4,742 calls for service, an increase of approximately 250 calls over the previous year, and the highest total in department history. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we're not going to go into that right now. There were 2 new members who were sworn in, but recruitment has been a challenge. And from what I understand, this is sort of, true across the board for fire departments these days. The old timers will talk about how when they were, first seeking employment, it was so hard to find a job, and they would, go to take a test or apply for a position. And there were, 100, 200, hundreds of people sometimes, like looking for positions. And it was, really difficult there are a lot of people. And we're finding now that it is much more difficult to find people to fill the positions. And so that's continuing to be a problem for the department. Training is really important, and that's something that the department has been working on. And then the facilities, as everyone knows, need work, which is ongoing issues that we are addressing. And we're going to be talking tonight and voting on things related to the fleet. So we have an engine that needed a full motor replacement, and another one that had to be taken out of service, which resulted in, some significant issues. So the fire department continues to do a really great job and serve this community, but it is not without a lot of pressure on the members of the fire department, and there are a lot of challenges. So I want to thank Chief Hankus for this report, and if there's anything that else that you want to add, feel free. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add and build on Commissioner Maxham's comments. I appreciated receiving the fire department's annual report, and what it showed me as a commissioner. I really appreciate the leadership that Chief Hankus brings to the department because she has provided data and information for us as commissioners to advocate in Springfield on behalf of her department. And as we work with all of our department heads to advocate for needs for the village. As Commissioner Maxim said, in particular, with the activity of the fire department at the CTA, with the mayor's leadership, we've advocated for funding for fire department and EMS services and support for a number of years. With Chief Hankus providing us with really important data and insight. And I was especially noting that our fire department is the second busiest single house department in the state of Illinois. And when you hear, the number of calls, that's a huge number, but it puts it in perspective when you hear things like that. And so the dedication of our personnel is noted and appreciated by me. And I look forward to continuing to advocate for the services that our fire department needs with my colleagues. Mayor?
Commissioner Vogt.
I agree with everything you said, so I won't reiterate all of that, but I do want to thank all of the village departments that provide reports to us. We often see police and fire here, and they're a wealth of information, and I certainly highlight this section to residents who want to learn a little bit more about what's going on. You get a ton of information. Public Works provides us with a bi-monthly, I guess, update, and the community center report. It was great to see that in here today. So I just wanted to thank the departments who take the time to provide this, because it really does give us information on how to advocate for them and make informed decisions, but it's a great resource for the community too, to learn more about what's going on here.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, we are ready for bills by resolution.
Be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Forest Park, Cook County, Illinois, that we dispense with the reading of the individual bills inasmuch as each department head has approved and signed bills in the following aggregate amount for their respective departments. Refunds and allocations, $1,776. Public Affairs, $142,765.25. Police Department, $14,428.06. Community Center, $4,615.46. Clerk's Office, $240,917.88. Fire Department, $1,988. Department of Health and Safety, $6,261.50. Streets and Public Improvements, $126,201.69. Public Property, $48,996.94. Seizure, $11,183.39. Federal Customs, $26,761.27. TIF, $11,703.18. BIP, $19,586.74. Water Department, $270,308.38 for a total amount of $927,493.74.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Commissioners, is there a motion to adopt the resolution on the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Maxam. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Deputy Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Commissioner Maxam? Aye. Commissioner Nero? Commissioner Mellon Ragoven?
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt?
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins?
Aye.
This is Resolution 11-26.
All right, Commissioners, moving down to new business. The first item will be a presentation by our auditors.
I have to turn it on.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. Well, happy to be here this evening. My name is Joe Loudon. I'm a principal at Lauterbach and Amen, and I'm here tonight to present to you your 2025 annual financial report. I'd like to start this evening out by thanking Tish and the entire team out here. It's no easy task getting to the end of the audit process. It takes a lot of hard work, time, and patience to get to the point where we're at this evening where we are presenting the final communications. So just want to say thank you from behalf of Lauterbach and Amen and our entire audit team. Tonight, I'll be presenting to you 3 required pieces of communication by the state of Illinois. The first of those 3 is going to be the village's SAS 114 letter. I'm not sure if everybody has a copy of it. It would come with your client communications packet. It would be on the Lauterbach and Amen letterhead. It's a pretty short document, so I'm happy to summarize it for you. The SAS 114 letter is issued in accordance with Auditing Standard 114, in which we are required to disclose any disagreements that occur with management during the course of the audit process. Happy to summarize this and state that we did not have any disagreements this year. Following that, I'm going to be getting into the annual financial report. So it's going to be the largest bound copy that you have. Do want to preface, this is not a page turner by any means, so I'm going to keep things pretty brief and high level this evening. I'll hit on a few key sections and then a few financial statement highlights. If I could have everybody start on page 1. Page 1 starts the independent auditors report section of the annual financial report. This portion of the document has a few different purposes. The first is to discuss what management's responsibility is as it relates to the financial statements, which is to prepare them. The next thing it does is discuss what the auditor's responsibility is to those financial statements, which is to generate an opinion on those financial statements. And then the last thing it does is generate your opinion for fiscal year 25, which is unmodified. And this is the cleanest and highest form of assurance that we can provide to the village. You'll find management's discussion and analysis starting on page 5. I highly recommend spending the majority of your time at this portion of the document. Management spent a lot of time putting together the narrative nature of this, hitting on some of the financial statement highlights in there. Any of the questions that you might have can also be answered in there. So just it's a bit easier of a read than the dense financial statements that follow it. Following that, I'll hit on a few financial statement areas. So if everybody could turn to page 28. Page 28 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for governmental funds, or otherwise known as your governmental fund income statement. And just highlighting the far left column for your general fund this year, you'll note that there was a decrease in fund balance in the general fund of approximately 1.3 million, leaving the general fund balance with an ending fund balance of 252,000. Following that, if I could have everybody turn to page 34. 34 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for your proprietary funds, or otherwise known as your proprietary fund income statement. And you'll note the third line from the bottom in your water fund, the change in net position for fiscal year 25 was an increase of approximately 7.7 million, leaving your net position ending to be 39 million this year. After the financial statements, you'll find the notes of the financial statements starting on page 38. Your notes of the financial statements will hold items such as capital assets, long-term debt, as well as all your actuary information. So IMRF, police and pension, fire pension funds, as well as your other post-employment benefits. And then after the notes of the financial statements, you'll find some additional supplemental information such as budget to actual figures in the back of the report. Then the last piece of communication I'm going to be going through is going to be the village's management letter. So this is the last stapled copy with the village's logo on the front. I do want to preface before getting into this that these are just a listing of best practice recommendations that we distribute to the village, as well as any upcoming GASB pronouncements. So you'll note that there's one current recommendation for fiscal year 25. We've been distributing this comment to almost all of our clients. It's for IT security awareness and monitoring of emerging risks. In this day and age, you can never be too cautious with AI growth and a lot of additional IT security issues that are going around the world. So we're just trying to make everybody aware. And then flipping to the next page, you'll find some prior recommendations. So there's a couple policy recommendations that we have out here. One for capital asset policy, one for an outstanding check write-off policy. The next one is a police pension and fire pension funding management letter comment. The fourth is for a deficit net position and fund balance. And then the last one is funds not in compliance with fund balance policy. And you'll note to all of those comments that management has provided a response moving forward. Page. And then the last page of this management letter is going to be 2 upcoming GASB standards, one for GASB number 103 for financial reporting model improvements, and then one for GASB number 104 for disclosure of certain capital assets. Both of those have an implementation date of April 30th, 2027, so 2 fiscal years from now, and we'll work alongside the team out here to determine if they are applicable, and we'll work alongside to implement if so. And that'll conclude my portion of the presentation this evening. Happy to answer any questions you might have. My email is always open as well for any additional questions that come after tonight.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Maxim.
When we talk about the status of our rating going from stable to no outlook, what does that typically mean?
Tish, do you want to chat on that?
I have another question. Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about net position, and this might be more a question, and I'm going to read some information that I got from Director Olmsted too. When we first start looking at the management's discussion and analysis, the first thing we see under financial highlights is that our net position increased, right? So I'm thinking, yay, this is super great, right? But I know that that's not exactly necessarily indicative of a really strong financial standing. So I reached out to Tish and I asked that question. I said, here we're saying that, things are looking better. Can we talk about, what that means in terms of the larger financial context? And, I asked Tish if it was okay for me to share her comments, and she said yes. I think the most important thing that she said to me in an email is that, and I said, does this mean we should be optimistic? And she said, in my opinion, this does not show an improvement in financial stability. And there's a couple reasons why. So first of all, the net position increased, and correct me if I'm wrong, primarily due to 2 factors. So there were a lot of infrastructure improvements that increased our capital assets. And we know we've been doing a lot of work on infrastructure. So that's one of the big things here that increased our capital assets. And then there was a change in pension liabilities, which was good. We saw a good return on our investments. And then there were some, I think, actuarial assumption adjustments that were made that also had a significant impact on that. But so our so our net position looks like it had this really good, this is really positive. But then these are the reasons that Director Olmsted gave why we still need to be very, very cautious. First of all, the unrestricted net position still is 115 million deficit, which means we lack the resources for day-to-day operations. And in the report on pages 8 through 10, it talks a lot about that and says, unrestricted net position, if positive, can be used to meet the government's ongoing obligations to citizens and creditors. But ours is not positive. It's still 115 million, not positive. Secondly, the revenues were flat or came from one-time sources and are not reflective of a sustainable revenue growth strategy. Third, and there's information about this on page 16, where it says revenues in 2026 will not offset expenditures, and expenditures are budgeted at 11% to increase at 11.5%. So we're still not looking at, improvements in, either revenues or decrease in expenses. Number 4, we're not meeting our actuarially determined pension contributions. And number 5, we have significant new long-term debt on the horizon, including the water reservoir replacement. So I just wanted to go over those things, and I would also like Director Olmsted or Joe to correct me if any of what I said was not correct.
I can handle first. I think Tish might be able to provide more internal context to that, but from our perspective, I would agree with all of Tish's assessment on that. I highly recommend everybody looking also at page 26, which is then your reconciliation of total governmental fund balance to then how we get to that net statement of net position, which then you'll see the items that are comprising that negative net overall net position. And so you'll see in there some of the more significant areas like your police and fire net pension liability, as well as Tishan mentioned, being underfunded on those are not necessarily helping that alleviate those giant net pension liabilities. I think also capital assets, those do have a benefit, obviously, as they are increasing that overall net position, but don't truly reflect on the operating side of things. So then if you look at your general fund, once again, you don't have a large balance of unassigned or unrestricted fund balance then, noting that you don't have the ability then to cover those operating expenditures. If for whatever reason all revenue stopped, you would expect to have a certain balance to be able to cover that. So I would agree with her assessment on that. Once again, I think I had presented last year and I had brought the comment of just continuing budgeting and staying within the parameters of your budget, I think is a key area, as well as getting back on track with the pension funding.
And then another thing that was mentioned, and we all know this, right? And I'm going to talk more about this later, is identifying new sources of revenue has been something we've talked about many times before and still really hasn't happened. So I'm going to talk about that later in my commissioner's report, but I think that that's the most important thing that we need to do. Also, thank you very much to Director Olmsted for the hard work that you did on this. I know it is a lot of work, and I know I bug you with questions about things, but thank you for always answering me and being responsive and working really hard to get this together.
Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about picking up again on some of the comments and questions that Commissioner Maxam has raised. One of the, the audit is very complex, and, we have a lot of activities going on in the village, and the financial management of those activities is complex. And I think you started to get to the question that I had, but I'd like you to expound upon it in this way. So we have statements here that we're reviewing and understanding, sort of a government-wide financial analysis, and then the activities or the fund balances of our operating funds. And can you explain, just for the benefit of folks who haven't had the pleasure of perusing all of this information, sort of how the long-term picture and the funds that and the assets, assets and liabilities that we manage as a village, impact, but also affect, look and how we've talked about them on our operating annual report.
Yeah.
What does that look like here, and how are they related?
Yeah,
that's a helpful context for some of these very detailed questions that would be helpful to hear.
Yeah, of course. So as I mentioned, page 26, I think does a great job of summarizing what the difference is between your governmental funds and then your governmental activities. So from a broad range, your governmental activities balance is going to be comprised of, once again, all of your operating fund balances, but then it also includes anything that's a long-term liability or a potential capital asset. So all of those balances get taken into consideration. So that governmental activities balance is definitely, especially including some of those long-term liabilities, is a lot more of a foreshadowing or a long-term outlook at things as those balances start to change over time. Once again, anything related to the pensions, IMRF, and other post-employment benefits are all actuary done work. So those numbers are consistently changing over the course of time due to market trends, contributions, items like that. But your governmental activities includes all of those balances. And then you go to the fund level, which then is more of your day-to-day operating budget. Anything that you're budgeting for over the course of the fiscal year gets put into those funds. And I guess how they work together in a sense, as I mentioned, for more of your day-to-day, your fund level fund balances, it's really important to make sure that you're budgeting and staying within the parameters of that budget, which then can only then in turn help your governmental activities in that position.
So just to follow up, so things for a municipality and just, again, just confirming my knowledge and understanding of some of the information that you've presented here. We have fund balances and funds that are restricted.
Correct.
And then some that are unrestricted. And so I wasn't able to like fully assess the amount of unrestricted funds that we have versus restricted funds. But my sense and understanding of our finances is that most of what we're dealing with is either we have revenues coming in or expenses or activities where there's a restricted purpose assigned to a dollar.
Correct.
And so part of the struggle that we have as a municipality is we're operating in an environment that is highly structured. And then we have a funds flow problem is that a lot of our funds are delayed. Would you agree with that characterization?
I mean, I think so in a sense of being restricted. I think back to Commissioner Maxim's purpose of creating additional revenues then to alleviate that as well.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But I think part of us having this conversation is also how some of the information is presented is very financially oriented. And so when you see a $115 million deficit, it's, assets and liabilities. People tend to look at the number.
Right.
And so I want to put that in some context that folks can understand what we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And
A lot of
thank you
moving
f-
pieces at that,
Yes,
100%.
it is.
So
It is. And thank you. So what are real dollars and what are things that we use to serve our village?
right. Correct.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. And thank you very much to our financial team and Tish for a tremendous job. I do see a lot of a trajectory of thoughtful work and, we have work to do. And we are, but there's progress that's being made and I'm proud of it.
Commissioners Nero or Vogt, anything? Questions, comments?
Piggyback on what they said and I appreciate all of your work. I know that this is a lot for you and there's a lot going on and thank you for providing the report this evening. So thank you.
Commissioner Maxim.
Yeah, so our current rating as Moody's rating as of May 2024, I believe, is BA1. Can you tell us more about what that means?
I wouldn't have the exact ratings on the top of my head.
No, I just meant like it is BA1. I just wanted to just for people listening, is that a good rating, a bad rating? Like, can you give
Off the
any
top of my
kind
head, I couldn't tell you the order of ratings
Okay.
right here. I can definitely get back to you and provide a little bit more context to that. I don't know if it might.
Okay, because I looked it up. I just wanted to verify with someone else. So what I saw is that it means that it's subject to substantial credit risk. But I wanted to verify if that is indeed what a BA1 credit rating means. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioners, next item is a presentation by the Board of Health.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Board. My name is Michonne O'Neill, and I'm the chairperson of the Board of Health. And our board is made up of 5 members, and we are varied education and experiences, and we all come together and work to collectively, impact the mental well-being of the residents of Forest Park. And so we're here tonight to share with you a bit about what we've been doing since our board inception in August of 2023. And before I turn the mic over to 2 of our board members who are going to highlight our activities and talk about recommendations, I'd like to acknowledge our dedicated board members. We have Karen Constantine. She's our secretary, but she's not here tonight. But we do have in attendance Susan Buss, Lindsay Bosch Flynn, and Casey Castle. And I'm going to bring Susan Buss up to you now.
Thanks, everybody. So I'm just going to give a little bit of summary from the long report that we sent you. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the community assessment that we did at the beginning of last year after working on it for quite a while. So we did a 2-part community assessment, and 1 part was a survey that we took over 3 months in the community from January to March of last year, which was a 25-question survey. And then we did a series of roundtable interviews where numerous people came in, and some of them are here. And we asked them, basically, we were looking to answer certain questions. So did residents and providers feel that there were adequate services? Were the residents aware of what services there were? What barriers to treatment were people facing? Were the providers aware of what other providers were doing, and were they working together? And then were some residents experiencing more barriers than others? And some of the things that we found out, first of all, 158 households responded to the survey, and that's about 2.2%. And that's not 158 people, that's 158 households. That was a little disappointing for us, but in contrast, Oak Park recently did a community survey of that over a period of 17 months, and they had 522 respondents. So ours was really kind of proportionate with that. We asked some qualitative questions of the residents, and one of them was, did you find Forest Park a safe and healthy place to live? And we had an 80% positive, either agree or strongly agree with that, which is very high. We asked them, did you feel like it was an inclusive and welcoming place to live? And we had an 83% positive agree or strongly disagree reaction to that one. Kind of on the negative side, we had a high rating of has your family experienced anxiety in the past year? And we had a 69% positive response to that. We asked similar in terms of depression, and we had a 56% positive response to that. These are quite a bit higher than the national average, and not to say exactly how accurate our survey is, but the anxiety number is like 3 times the national average. The depression number is 7 times the national average. The report also has them say, what do you think the village is doing well? And what do you think they could do better? And that's in your report as well. Some of the validations where they were, very aware of what the library was doing in terms of mental health, and they were very positive about other services that community organizations were doing and our providers. So the other part of what we did was we had 7 community providers, again, some of whom are here, come in: the police department, the library, the fire department, community center, ProCare Center, and District 91. And again, there's a broader summary of what some of those organizations told us or reported, but there was a strong sense of overwhelm. And when we hear the numbers about the fire department number of calls, it makes a lot of sense, but overwhelm and burnout, that there was a wish for more training, more support, and more resources. And some of the specific things that Lindsay's going to speak to, the idea of maybe a central location for services for residents, and then some sort of booklet or handout or database, and then an education on who provides what and how to access them. In terms of some of the other limitations of the survey, we provided it only in English. We didn't do any specific reach out to Latinx residents. nor do we have a Spanish-speaking member on our board. We did not have a budget other than some support from the village in terms of like Xeroxing and stuff. And then we have 5 volunteer staff doing this. So I talked about the timing. The timing that we did this of January of last year, all kinds of things started to rip open in the world in terms of kind of government like overreach and like distrust and fear among people. And so it wasn't the best time to go around and have people say, what do you think about your government? But we didn't know that, obviously, going into it. The survey was overrepresented by whites and seniors and underrepresented by Black, Latino, and Asian residents, underrepresented for those under the poverty line level, and then also underrepresented for either uninsured or underinsured folks. A couple other last results were that in our findings, 69% of the folks had recently participated in mental health services. 88% were able to use their insurance or Medicare or Medicaid. So this is probably super overrepresented. And obviously a smaller number represented barriers in terms of their insurance not covering services, their provider was out of network, they couldn't afford the services weren't local, the appointment times weren't convenient, there was a waiting list, they didn't know where to find it, and distrust of providers, lack of transportation. These weren't really super high numbers, but in the report it shows some numbers for that. Just in terms of the last thing that I'll say is that one of the important things we wanted to know is, would the residents know who to call in terms of if they had a mental health crisis? And we had a 56% positive reply to that, which is pretty high. And actually that is very similar to what Oak Park found in their survey. And I mean, they obviously have a lot more funds and different things too, and services, but I thought that number was not too bad. And then 25% that said that no, they would not know. The last thing I'll say is that even as a result of our process of bringing people together, one of the positive things that happened is that the library became aware that they could call on the police department emergency personnel person through the ProCare Center, where they weren't really aware that they could even do that. And so like that was the beginning of us connecting some other organizations to each other. So that's all. And I'll hand it to Lindsay.
Thank you all. So Susan just described our discovery phase. And so after synthesizing the insights from our discovery phase, we've arrived at the following 5 recommendations that will help support positive mental health outcomes for our community. I'm going to briefly state all of those recommendations here tonight, but for the sake of time, I'm only going to speak more in depth about the first 2. Of course, please feel free to ask me questions once we're done. I actually leaned over to my colleagues and said it's such a shame that we're doing these recommendations right after the auditor. We are fully aware about the financial situation that the village is in. And I want to state up front that some of these recommendations do require financial investment and others do not. Cost considerations are described in the full report. But regardless of their current feasibility, these recommendations are rooted in data and the collective expertise of the Board of Health. And hopefully they are going to provide a benchmark to work towards within this community. So now I'm going to state those 5 recommendations for the record. Our 5 recommendations are as follows. Number 1, the village should invest in a comprehensive, clear, and regularly updated directory of mental health resources that can be used by both community members and relevant stakeholders. 2, the village should invest in personnel to facilitate mental health resourcing for people in need, preferably a licensed clinical social worker. 3, the village should form and strengthen strategic partnerships with neighboring communities to improve access to and awareness of relevant mental health resources. 4, the Board of Health should regularly solicit feedback from residents on the state of health and mental health in Forest Park, specifically by enacting the mental health survey and the roundtables every 2 years. And 5, the village should better help the helpers, specifically provide more training and support services to frontline civic employees regarding their own mental health. So with that, let's dig into the first 2. The first recommendation is that we believe that the village should invest in a mental health resource hub that can be used by residents and civic employees. And we're making this recommendation for several reasons. The first is, I believe actually it was closer to 40% of survey respondents stated that they did not know how to access mental health services in crisis situations. They either said that they strongly disagreed that they could or they disagreed that they could. Also, census data from 2023 shows us that a little over 25% of Forest Park villagers are using either Medicaid or Medicare to access health services, and finding providers that take this kind of coverage is notoriously very challenging. Furthermore, our roundtable discussions let us know that first responders are hungry for a single, up-to-date resource that identifies appropriate mental health resources in order to respond to crisis in the field. So we're recommending that the village invest in a central resource hub that helps residents discover and access mental health services. So in the short term, there actually are existing print and digital directories from surrounding communities and Proviso Township that we could repurpose, and that would be part of our strategic partnerships. These resources are described in the full report. In the long term, there is the option to build our own standalone digital resource hub that allows residents and first responders to search providers based on need and service type. Potential costs and funding considerations for this project are also described in the report. And it should be noted that a lower cost option for implementing a village mental health hub would be to build this resource into either the village's existing website or possibly the library website. So for example, we know that the library website already has a page built within it that lists mental health resources. This could be strategically expanded upon with the support of both the Board of Health and the village. The second recommendation: the village should invest in a licensed clinical social worker to meet the various needs of village members and the first responders serving them. This is a really timely recommendation given the retirement of our community treasurer, Karen Taluski. She was not an official social worker, but our research showed that she very much acted unofficially in this capacity for residents. So this would be a huge hole to fill. We know the village has an existing contract with Ascension ProCare for a part-time police crisis counselor to assist with mental health needs encountered in the field. However, in our discussions, we found that while sometimes helpful, this contracted role does not often help responders solve problems in real time, but is more helpful after the fact. We are recommending the village hire a full-time social worker role that operates out of the community center. This person should support our first responder departments as they encounter mental health needs in the field, as well as residents in need of connecting services. Details for hiring qualifications and salary requirements are listed in the full report. We're considering these recommendations the start of a much larger discussion about how we best to support the mental health and well-being of the village. While we know we're kind of in a financial difficult situation right now, this is a small community that's really tight-knit, and we can come up with creative solutions together. We look forward to connecting with the village commissioners about our recommendations so we can work towards making them actionable for Forest Park. And I will open it up for questions if you have any.
Commissioners, are there questions for the Health Board? Commissioner Maxia.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you so much for the work you've done. This is really comprehensive. I actually have two questions. You mentioned Oak Park's study that they'd done and having, a lot of or some of the results in line with what they had seen. Have any other towns done similar studies, or have you looked at that at all? I'm just curious if.
I'm sure that they have. We just kind of been in partnership with Oak Park right now and asking what some of their best practices are. They do have a very robust Board of Health and Mental Health Committee. I don't know if you've been driving through Oak Park and seen like the 988 signs and the text for crisis signs. Like that was born out of that committee and those initiatives. So that's who we've been in partnership with the most. But I'm sure that we could probably do another precursory analysis and see what's going on in other surrounding communities.
I'm not suggesting that you do. I was just curious.
I mean, I think it'd be a good idea.
And then I'm intrigued by the idea of having a social worker that, would be on staff to help the first responders and also, sort of coordinate services for residents. Obviously, cost would be an issue.
Yeah.
But have you seen this implemented? Does Oak Park have that, for example, and how does that work?
I know DuPage County does. So they're kind of like the gold standard, and we do mention them in the full report. There's actually some pretty incredible mental health initiatives happening out of DuPage County right now. Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to also add on to Commissioner Maxim's support for the work that the Board of Health does and the really thoughtful engagement that you've had with the community about this issue, and certainly couldn't have come at a better time. Mental health in general has just been a important topic. I just wanted to mention, I think Oak Park has the ECHO program where they have community home workers that are trained as social workers, I think. So I appreciated the depth of the analysis and the work that you did to engage the community and our partners in the village about this. I'm still digesting the report because it was a lot of information, but I definitely am interested in conversations and welcome the opportunity to talk further.
We are too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Health Board members. Oh, Commissioner Vogt, sorry.
Sorry. Echoing what she said, but I do want to thank all of you for volunteering on this board, for taking the time to do this, for all of the work that you've done and how thorough this report is. You know, I think we all had some ideas of what we might find in seeing some of the responses and doing some digging, but to have this rooted in data, to have, you know, some of those questions clearly answered, it's really helping us see how to move forward and what areas to focus our limited resources on, maybe upfront. And like Commissioner Mellon-Rogovin, I want to digest this a little bit more as well, but I'm very interested in hearing from the board and how we can help keep this momentum going. I don't want this to just be something that's kind of shelved and we're not visiting and continuing with.
Yeah.
Especially some of the things that we can do that are very affordable that we can get started on now. So figuring out how we can help support you in keeping things going, I want to just say that I'm dedicated to that.
Yeah, it sounds like Susan has something to add on. I will mention we do meet on the first Wednesday of every month, and you guys have open invitations to to attend, and we look forward to continued discussions.
I just wanted to mention that as a result of the survey and kind of looking through the numbers more specifically, especially about like the depression, the prevalence of the depression and anxiety, which I guess kind of surprised me a little bit. And it might be like the people who responded to the survey were more interested in mental health. So there's always those kind of skews. But as a result of that, we started our speaker series once a month at the library. And hopefully you'll be hearing more about that. But every month we're having, you know, a speaker come in and talk about something. Lindsay's going to talk about neurodivergent parenting, and we had two other speakers before that. And so throughout the year, we're going to try to address some of the needs of the village. And that's, I mean, pretty low cost. You know, there's no budget for that. And the people, we'd like to give them a stipend, but we can't yet. But we'd love to have a budget, you know. So there's, you know, again, kind of low cost ways that we can try to reach out and help the residents.
Thank you all for your work. I went to the speakers series last month, and I was surprised at the number of people there. I'm glad that you have that partnership with the library. And monthly, the mayors get together, and the Proviso Township Supervisor joins us at each meeting. And of course, Proviso has a very robust mental health board, and I know they have some gatherings coming up. So we should hopefully have some feedback for you on ways to partner a little bit more with the Proviso Mental Health Board. Okay. All right, Commissioners, moving on. Under new business, our next item is an ordinance authorizing the loan from the Forest Park National Bank. Is there a motion?
Yes, I will make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Maxim. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion. All right, there is no discussion. Deputy Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero, Commissioner Mellon-Rogovin,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance 05-26.
All right. Commissioners, next item is an ordinance waiving the bid process and authorizing the purchase of one Pearson Forcer Ultimate Configuration Tower Ladder Fire Truck by the village. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Maxim. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Maxim.
Hold on a second. Okay, so, yeah, we're talking about no more debt, right? But this is pretty critical. I just want to read this part from Chief Hankis's letter that is in the board packet. She says approval at this time is critical. Truck 403 was removed from service earlier this year after being determined to be beyond reasonable and cost-effective repair. And then listen to this part here, right? The impact of this loss is not theoretical. At a recent structure fire, there was a delay in the arrival of a mutual aid truck company. During that incident, firefighters were required to rescue a village resident from a third-story window using a ground ladder that was too short and had to be operated at an unsafe angle. While the rescue was successful, the situation clearly demonstrated the risks of not having an in-service truck. Thank you. Oh, I have a question for Chief Hankis. Do you know if we're going to make it onto I think it was the spring list do we know the timing yet of this? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion further? All right, Deputy Clerk.
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero, Commissioner Mellon Rigoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance 06-26.
All right, Commissioners, next item is a resolution approving Amendment 1 to the IGA between the village and the Cook County Bureau of Asset Management. This will allow for the maintenance and construction of two electric vehicle charging stations. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Mellon Rigoven. Discussion? Commissioner Maxim.
Does this come with any extra expense to the village?
Not at this time. The IGA was needed in order for the county to move forward with investigating the use of additional funds that they have, and they wanted Forest Park to be a part of that discussion for the second set of EV chargers. So at this time, no, it would simply rely on additional funds that the county has that they're trying to use from their ARPA budget money to provide additional chargers to the villages. So this IGA allows them to consider Forest Park as an option for a second charger.
To just be sure. So if we vote yes, we want to approve this amendment to the IGA. We're not beholden to any extra expenses.
Correct. This is just allowing them to consider the village to be a option for a second charger. Anything that would come in front of, like any expenses that would come to us would come to the council first anyways.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Deputy Clerk.
Commissioner Maxim.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Rigoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is resolution 12-26.
Commissioners, next item is a resolution authorizing the approval of pay request number 11 to Verigy for the water meter replacement project. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Mellon Rigoven. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Vogt. Discussion? Okay, there's no discussion. Deputy Clerk.
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero, Commissioner Mellon Rigoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is resolution 13-26.
All right, Commissioners, next item is a motion to direct the Board of Fire and Police to offer employment to the next 2 eligible probationary firefighters. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion? All right, there is no discussion. Deputy Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim. Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragoven.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. All right, Commissioners, next item is a motion to approve an application for use of the public way. This has been submitted by Roberts West Side for Food Aid 2026. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Mellon Ragoven. Discussion? Okay, there's no discussion. Deputy Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragoven.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. All right, Commissioners, our final item of new business this evening is a motion to approve an agreement for a community center trip. This is for the Barrel Run. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion? All right, there is no discussion. Deputy Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim. Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragoven.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. All right, Commissioners, that concludes new business for tonight's meeting. We're at Administrator's Report.
Real quick, I just want to acknowledge Forest Park Bank. Earlier, you approved a loan for a fire truck. Forest Park Bank, our local community bank, because of the village's relationship with them, was able to turn this around very quickly for us. There was a lot of back and forth with the bank, with our finance department and legal. And this is certainly something that they knew was important to the village, and they made this happen in a way that a larger bank might not have. So I just want to acknowledge their assistance in making this happen tonight. I want to thank the Board of Health. The volunteers are certainly a backbone of our community, and I'm hoping that this will be some good news in response to some of the stuff that you've talked about. The state of Illinois had enacted the Community Emergency Services and Supports Act back in 2021. Westcom, our dispatch center, has been chosen as one of the first cohorts to participate in that. And so what that will do is it will require emergency response operators, such as those with 911 centers, to refer calls seeking mental health and behavioral health support to a new service that can dispatch a team of mental health professionals instead of the police. So we are still currently rolling that out with the state, but the good news is our own dispatch is part of the first cohort. So as I get more information in regards to that, I will certainly bring it to the Board of Health and the Village Council as well. And then you may have noticed a different style tonight in the minutes. I just wanted to point out, I forgot to put in my administrator memo. We're testing out new options for the way we actually compose the minutes. And so this was something that Deputy Clerk Roach wanted to try. And so it was a software program that we're entertaining, and it helps us compile what happens at the meetings through video. And so we're trying to look for ways to streamline the process of, taking the council meeting, having to go through it, having to digest what happened during the meeting, and then put it into minutes. And so this was one of the ways that she's been researching. So we just wanted to try it. So if you have any feedback on, how the minutes were presented, please let us know. And then lastly, I just want to let everybody know vehicle stickers are officially now on sale. So some people may have gotten their renewals in the mail already. We're working through them and they're going to be mailed out, but anybody at any time can come in and get their vehicle sticker at Village Hall. That's all I have.
Thank you, Administrator. Okay, we're at Commissioner Reports. Commissioner Maxim.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about finances to follow up on the audit discussion we had. and remind everyone that we have a budget meeting coming up soon. It feels like we just had one. At the last budget meeting, I asked for support for a new source of revenue, the places of eating tax. And the will of the rest of the council was not to go that route. It was to focus on other new revenue sources that had been identified. And there were two primary ones that were identified at the time. One was off-street parking and the other was an amnesty/booting program with the police department. So, I'm not going to talk too much about the off-street parking because that's Commissioner Mellon Rogovin can fill us in, whenever that update's ready. But Administrator Entler informed me that that committee came back and said, no, we don't really want off-street parking. And then, she said, well, maybe we go back to the drawing board and let's get this going. But then she told me that it's not going to be a significant source of revenue. That if anything, it's going to be something that's going to address the issue of parking for residents, but it's not going to bring in revenue that we need to correct any of our financial instability to any significant amount. And at this point, we don't have a good number or estimate on the amnesty booting, which, is in place, but because it's new, we don't know exactly what it's going to bring in. But I think if we're being realistic, it's not going to by itself be enough to fix the problem. In this audited fiscal year 2025 statement we looked at tonight, there on page 11, we all know there's a nice little graph, and we all know this already, that property taxes are one of our biggest single sources of revenue. But almost 80% of that every year goes directly to our pension obligations. And as it says on page 17 of this report, and I'm quoting here, the levy is below the actuarially determined contribution for both police and fire pension funds. Efforts to increase revenues toward pension obligations divert this resource from general fund operations. This will continue to be the case until new revenue sources, plural, are recognized. These unfunded liability balances and the lack of reserve in the general fund are the foundation of the village's current credit rating, which we already talked about before is not great. So with that in mind, and we know this already, and I feel like, I say this over and over again, I am going to be asking all of you once again this year to consider the places of eating tax. I'm working on getting updated figures and numbers that are going to be a little more accurate. But I am nothing short of begging you guys to reach out to me or to Director Olmsted or to somebody with questions, with comments, with how you would like to see it rolled out, if you're willing to even entertain it this year. Or if you have other sources of revenue before the budget meeting, let's talk about those, because we can't just have one, we need many. And I want to bring this up now in anticipation of the meetings that we're going to have in the spring, because we need to think really hard about how we're going to correct our financial situation by increasing revenue. And then also we have to think real hard about where we can cut. So this is my ask to the rest of the council. Please cooperate with me on this. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon will go.
Thank you. Just a few updates. I received a very nice email from a resident last week who detected a water main break on their street and contacted Sal in Public Works, of course. And Sal got the water crew out there within the hour. And the problem was addressed in a very timely manner. The resident was extremely happy and talked about how the water was shut off for just a very short amount of time, I think only a few hours, while that water main break was fixed with our water crew. And it was nice I shared this email with Sal and our team, and I just wanted to note that we continue to receive great feedback from residents when they work with our Public Works crew, and thank them always for their outstanding service with our community. Wanted to highlight that our Traffic and Safety Town Hall is February 18th here in Village Hall at 7 p.m. It's an opportunity to meet your traffic and safety volunteers, our residents who volunteer on the commission, to learn about their role and how to bring your questions and concerns forward so that they're reviewed by the commission and recommendations are brought to Village Hall and to the council. And this is the process that we use to make our neighborhoods better in Forest Park, and you can be a part of it. So we look forward to seeing you on the 18th at 7 p.m. And you will start to see signs around town for a partnership between the Arts Alliance, the Environmental Commission, the Village, and the Chicago Conservation Corps, which is the program on sustainability that I participated in. We're organizing a Earth Day recycled material art exhibition for residents of all ages. And the information, it's also on social media, but we'll have information around town how you can participate as an artist and then join us on April 22nd, which is Earth Day on Madison Street to enjoy the art exhibit. So note to all artists, information is out there about how to participate, and we hope you'll join us. And I attended the WCMC Legislative Breakfast this weekend, and it was a great opportunity to be to get information about what we have coming up in Springfield and at the federal level to, I'll say, look forward to. In terms of active legislation and how that affects the village. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Vogt.
Thanks. I just wanted to say quickly that the budget meeting season is fast approaching. And we do need to bring our ideas to the table. You know, I'm a strong proponent of not wanting all of the responsibility of creating, you know, new revenue to fall on the backs of residents. So, you know, we talk about property tax increases and all that stuff, which I think we can try to avoid as best we can, and focus more on things like the placing of eating tax is something that doesn't just fall on residents. It's people visiting town. It is, and it's definitely worth a conversation. I know Commissioner Maxim, you and I sat down this summer and I shared my ideas and suggestions on how to work to get folks on board and to understand. And I look forward to, you know, hearing how your work on that has been going. And just thinking about things like additional charging stations, for instance. Those are ways to get folks to come into our community and while their car is charging to shop and spend and dine. And that is something that can be luring people into town to create a little bit more, you know, revenue without having that falling necessarily just on the backs of our residents. So I look forward to having a conversation with all of you in the coming months about stuff like that. And I thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Commissioner Vogt. All right, commissioners, last week, Thursday, I was invited to be part of a community dinner to celebrate academic progress at Proviso East High School. That's our natural feeder school, other than, of course, the magnet school. That school has been elevated to what's called commendable status. It recognizes some of the progress they've made in terms of student achievement and progress in terms of improving test scores and whatnot. It was attended by a number of state and county elected officials, as well as parents from Forest Park, and some of the board members and employees of District 91, our local school district, as well as the District 209. And so in the spirit of, continuing the dialogue with the local schools, we had a couple of seats open at the annual legislative breakfast for the West Central Conference. So we invited Superintendent Mohip to join us. And he appreciated the time to spend with our team, as well as the networking that he was able to do with other proviso area leaders. Another guest at our table, which was very strategic, was to have President Preckwinkle's legislative director, Ms. Leanos, join us. She was the person who helped guide us through Springfield in terms of our dealings with the transit legislation. And she kind of updated us on some continuing meetings they're going to have to stand up the new Northern Illinois Transit Authority. It doesn't take effect until June of 2026. But of course, there is a provision where Forest Park can bill and seek reimbursement for first responder costs. And so, we talked about that, and we talked about having ongoing meetings so that we can put a system in place, prior to this bill actually taking effect, to where CTA and our side, have expectations for what's billable and how to present those, the documentation of those costs. And I expect that will possibly involve the actual new authority, the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, as well as potentially the governor's office. But it's going to be an opportunity to hopefully realize new revenue. We didn't plan on that a year ago. And of course, our estimates are that this could be worth, close to $1 million a year. So it's meaningful, it's in the law, but now it just has to be implemented. And so we are always looking for ways to increase revenues. And a big part of why I encourage you all to take part in things like the WCMC is to open up that dialogue, build the relationships with stakeholders at the state, county, and federal level, and help to be more effective in our roles. So that's going to conclude my commissioner's report tonight. And I want to remind everyone that we're going to join into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C2 regarding collective negotiation. We will not return into open session because we're not voting on anything tonight. But at this point, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session. Yes, sir. Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Nero. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Maxam. Deputy Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim? Commissioner Nero? Commissioner Mellon Rigovan?
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt? Mayor Hoskins?
Aye. We're adjourned.